welcoming our Toastmasters 2023 World Champion of Public Speaking, Dr. Jocelyn Tyson.
Our story begins 1927, London, and St. Augustine's Theatre Hall. Fernando Lugari steps onto the stage. Immediately, the audience erupts in applause, for they know they are about to witness greatness. Fernando Lugari is the world's greatest organist, pipe organist, and his iconic, beautiful melodies, concertos, and ballads are known throughout the land, high and low. He has a plethora of music that expands his time, and they know they are about to have a treat. Fernando dips from his bow. He quiets the audience, walks over to the organ, takes his seat, places his hands on the keyboard, and the magic begins. Immediately, people are captivated by song after song, sonnet and ballad. It is touching upon the tympanic membranes, kissing upon the mind, flowing from the heart and deepening the soul. His music is otherworldly, and one after the other, they are transformed, transfixed, but changed. And then it comes, the Pierre de Resistance. What rumors said it was going to be a culmination of all the wonderful songs he's put together, and into this final piece. He takes them high, low, brings them south, west, east, north, everywhere, and leaves them in a flurry for the end. The audience erupts in a thunderous applause. They are applauding for what seems like forever, but it is a record-breaking 23 minutes. He changed them. People are crying, women are crying, men are crying, people have fallen out. It's just that good. Fernando lifts from his bow and walks off to the stage, to his dressing room. On his way to the dressing room, he's approached by a man covered in soot and sweat. Other than a soft limp, he seems strong, looks proud. He reaches over and he says, "We did good today, sir, didn't we?" Confused. Fernando, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? Oh, I'm sorry about that, sir. The man takes off his hat, pulls out a handkerchief, wipes his hand. Name's Joe. I was working the furnace tonight. I just wanted to let you know, boy, it was tough there on that second one. By the third, we was getting that fire going. And by that final, buddy, that fire was going great. Fernando looks at the man. Realization, recognition come upon his face. For you see, an organ, a pipe organ, is similar to that of a piano, whereas a piano has the keys and the keyboard. You press the key, it releases a small mallet that hits the string in the body of the piano. Whereas a pipe organ, you press the key, it releases a valve, and air goes through the pipe. Each key has a corresponding pipe, and each pipe has a corresponding sound. And in 1927, at St. Augustine's Theatre Hall, The air that was coming through the pipe comes from steam, coming from the heat, you guessed it, of the furnace. And Joe was working that furnace. Fernando tips his nose up. I'm sorry, sir. There is no we. I performed tonight. That crowd is giving the applause for my performance. I, sir, am the artist. And my pièce de résistance, that final number, that was exceptional and from me. So there is no we did good. Joe, embarrassed, pulls back his hand. He puts on his cap. You have a good day, sir. And limps off, walking strong, looking proud. Now, rumor starts to spread about this performance. Word of mouth goes back and forth all across London. And before there was Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, any of those social medias, this type of dialogue, well, it went viral. And everyone wanted to know. And even the Queen herself caught wind of such a performance. And for the first time, St. Augustine's Theater Hall had an encore performance. Now, the crowd is packed. All seats were sold out before, but now, standing room only. People are pressed up against the window trying to catch a seat. They can hear a little bit of the magic that they know will come. Fernando steps out onto the stage, takes his bow, for you know the audience erupts. He lifts, quiets them down, walks over to the piano. He sits down and sits himself down, places his hands on the keys. And that's when the magic does not happen. Nothing, zip, zero, nothing is coming out. Confused, Fernando starts hitting keys, pressing levers, hitting pedals, not understanding what's wrong, and a soft little hand comes out. Then, realization, recognition come across his face. He gets up and he leaves. The audience starts to rustle. What's happening? What's going on? Does he know the Queen is here? The Queen is here. He comes back, arm in arm, with a man covered in soot and sweat. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, last night's performance, epic though it was not due solely to my efforts. And tonight's performance will not be solely due to my efforts, but to the hard work and the labor of this man here. So I ask you, put your hands together and acknowledge Joe." And the audience oblige. They stand to their feet and they applaud Joe. And with a tear in his eye, Joe stood there, receiving for him the first time in his life a standing ovation of recognition for his hard work. He looks to Fernando. "We gonna do even better today, sir." And he walks off, walking strong and proud. I share that story because I ask you one thing. Who is the Joe in your life? Who is feeding your furnace? Who is pouring in to your fire of success? I think of, when we are Toastmasters, of the values of Toastmasters. And those, and some of us who are new, there are four main values. Number one, excellence. And we know about excellence. We work on our ahs, we work on our ums, the grammarians, we get feedback, and we pour into our public speaking and communication to be sure that we are perfect communicators, a level of excellence. Number two, and these are not in any particular order, but number two, I think of integrity. We hold ourselves to a certain standard. We see people equally. We communicate and we give back. Number three, service. Giving of our time, our talent, mentoring, speaking to other people and talking about the importance of good communication. But I think of the one, number four, respect. Grace and humility, and being able to show respect at all levels. It's not about a title. It's not about a status. It's about showing respect. I'm reminded of a story that was printed about an interview with the New York Times. It was between a CEO of Charles Schwab, Walt Bettinger. In the interview, he talks about how he needed to maintain his 4.0. He had excellent scholastics status and wanted to keep that. In his final course of his business analyst, it came down to his final exam. He had studied algorithms, he had studied case studies, he was preparing himself because he was going to be ready. On the day of the exam, the students line up and sit in their seats. The professor hands out a sheet of paper, a blank sheet of paper. Confused, the students, what's going on? The professor says, I've taught you everything I could about business in the past 10 weeks. But the most important message, the most important question is, what is the name of the lady that cleans this building? And here we have our CEO of Charles Schwab, one of the biggest financial institutes. And he humbly says, this was the first exam I failed. He had seen the cleaning woman. Her name was Dottie. And he says he rightfully so should have failed that exam, because at no point in his 10 weeks of attending that class and going in and out that building did he ever stop and speak to Dottie. When I heard about that story, I immediately thought of Joe. Dottie was his Joe. For me, I shared my story in my first speech that got me to World Championship about my journey. And I opened about how pharmacy school had its highs and it had its lows. One thing that stayed consistent was my Joe, Miss Jackie. She would listen with me every week, hearing the woes and the sorrows of a young college student breaking up with this one, worried about this exam, trying to figure out this tutoring situation, yet still she was there. And I remembered the story of Joe, and when it came down to having my graduation and saying my thank yous, I called her up and I said, I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for feeding the fire for my success. Please come and join my family. Sit with my family at graduation, or if you can't make that, come to the dinner, please, because you were really impactful for me. I don't want us to forget the people in our lives that have made such an impact. I'm asking you to remember this story. Remember how Fernando overlooked something so important. Because I recognize that we are destined for success. People, we're Toastmasters. We will see success. We will work hard at it. We will show excellence, integrity, and service, but we must also show respect. Albert Einstein said, I speak to everyone the same, whether it's the garbage man or the president of the university. And we too need to speak to everyone the same. For even at the top, there is some sort of influence from someone at the bottom. So I'm closed with this: respect, the building block of success. Success is never achieved alone. Who is feeding your furnace?